welcome to the show.
Hello.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Yeah, so my business is just Nikki Colmone Coaching, and I help women break up with emotional eating for good. And I guess how I kind of got into that was I have a lot of different life experience. I was always kind of like a nomad with whatever I did. And I ended up finding like a nutrition certification, and I started health coaching, doing that for a long time and had my own practice for a little while. Then I decided I wanted to finish my degree, so I kind of stopped doing that, and I went back to school and I wrote my thesis on nature therapy and how we can use nature to help heal from like past traumas and things like that. And I created a book out of it. So this year I was really determined to just like make that book more known. And I just developed it into this business. So that's kind of how the business came about and everything. It was just basically through my schooling and the book. And I realized what my health coaching practice was missing for a long time. So I was able to add in that missing piece. So I feel like in a lot of ways, my life is just this little recipe, like adding a little bits here and there, and then my business is like the full-blown cake. So
that's really cool. And I love that you've written a book, and I totally need to check it out.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. It's on my list. It's on my list. I just need to actually go order it and get it. So I'm going to commit to that this week. I'm going to do that.
Good. Do it.
Yeah. So how have you been using your experiences specifically to help other women in their journeys?
So I've experienced a lot of things with depression and anxiety, especially. I've had a lot of panic attacks my whole life. And a lot of it was just due to the things that I experienced throughout, my later teen to early 20s, and some of the things that I went through, which I talk about in my book. But a lot of that depression, the anxiety and things like that, it just kind of like led to this really unhealthy relationship with food. And I used food as a way to cope with things. I have like a particularly like nasty sweet tooth. So I just a lot of that.
Yeah.
To kind of comfort me in ways. When I kind of was doing a lot of research for my book and everything, these little pieces just kind of started to come together. And so I realized like I had the perfect tools to help women that were going through a lot of the same things. And it's actually even more helpful because I've gone through it myself. So I'm able to, I understand where they're coming from. I understand how they're feeling. As I have that extra background with it, that makes that super efficient and helpful. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most powerful things, like in my journey too, is finding someone that's been there, someone that understands and has been able to overcome it. Yeah. Is one of the most powerful things, being able to connect with somebody that really understands where you're at and can help you.
Yeah.
So I think like right now with like the quarantine and everything going on, like what's been the biggest obstacle you've seen with your clients as they're stuck at home? I'm sure it's kind of been more challenging than it was before. So like, what are you seeing now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like what I'm seeing a lot of right now is people's routines are completely obliterated, and
yeah.
we get, as a human race, we just get really tied to that routine and having the same things going on. And when that gets disrupted, we get super anxious, we feel lost, we have, we feel more like panicky because we don't know what we should or shouldn't be doing. And so I feel like a lot what I'm seeing with my clients is that they just like, they feel lost, they feel anxious, they don't know where they should be putting their most of their time into because everything has changed, right? So when I show them how to like, find more steadiness in themselves, then they kind of that routine can kind of just shift, and it doesn't really make them totally lose it. They start to kind of see the positives in every single situation without drastically losing a lot of their progress, and also just helps them drastically change their nutrition for the better then too, if they can really focus on, what's inner, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So I think one of the things too that I've been seeing a lot, I'm sure it's kind of what you're alluding to, is like, if we didn't have a routine, or if routine was really important to us, but maybe even we weren't quite structured, it's worse now. I think with everything going on, that's the pattern that I'm seeing too with a lot of moms and just a lot of women in general, is that even if we did have somewhat of a routine and structure, like, it is completely out the window. And it's been a lot harder for those moms and for women to really stick to any sort of a routine. And that's the key to growth, right? Like, that's the key to being like settled and not anxious and depressed during all of this time. So it's one of those things that, oddly enough, it's just getting worse. And that's where support is so incredibly important.
Right. Yeah. And I have a lot of moms as clients too. And I mean, I think it's even more so for them because, especially if they're working moms, they're just like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is so new and this is so different. I still have my job and I have my kid and all of that. And how do I even have time for this? So it's really, it's like, okay, this is hard for sure, but you have to prioritize, and you're going to have to learn how to kind of give some things up that maybe just aren't serving you, that you don't really want to admit that they're not serving you. And kind of the biggest things with my clients, especially the mom clients that I do have, is just getting them to realize that taking care of themselves at this point in time has to be a priority.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think just more important than ever before, like, double down on taking care of yourself, because it's so chaotic outside that you have to find that inner balance. And if you don't, then you will start to feel it in every way, shape, or form. And that's when you start to emotional eating, digging into, like, opening the refrigerator more times than you need to in a single day. Like, all of these things that happen because we're not taking care of ourselves, like, huge.
Yeah, if you think about it, when we're really stressed, if we're really sad, if we're really angry, what is, like, one of the first things that we do is we turn to food, because emotionally we are craving something that we don't have in that moment. And usually our brains kind of like attribute that to hunger. Like, if we're hungry, we're going to want to eat something. We're filling that void that we don't have right now. And it's the same with our emotions. That's why we kind of tie those emotions with food, and so, I've seen a lot of people that are kind of starting with me. They're starting with me because they're like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, this used to not be an issue, but now I have no routine and I don't know when it's going to go back to normal. And here's the thing, that normal might not ever come back. It might be a totally new normal.
Sure.
You're going to have to roll with the punches. And if you can't really learn how to do that, then you're going to have a hard time with that. So,
Yeah. And it's like that cyclical, it's like the cycle of, you have a hard time, you eat more, you feel bad about yourself. And it's like, it keeps going until you're ready to put a stake in the ground and say, like, I'm done. I don't know what to do next. But that's really cool about reaching out to a coach like you and somebody that has that experience, is like, okay, I'm ready to stop, but I don't know what to do. Like, let's work together to do this. So, yeah. I love what you're talking about in terms of, like, the things that are holding us back. So, like, what are the two, if you had to pick two things that you see women, they're self-sabotaging, like their weight and their health? Like, what are the top couple of things that you see with women?
That's a really good question. I think that the biggest things that I see is that women, like, we just give so much, like, we just give all of ourselves because we just love so much, so, like, our hearts are just so big, and we just want everyone, to be okay. We want to take care of everyone, and then we do that so much, but that by the end of the day, we have nothing left to give to ourselves. So when that happens, we start to get more frustrated, more angry, we kind of cannon of emotions. And, we can experience depression and panic attacks and anxiety and stuff like that. And then we just start to eat our feelings and we gain weight and then we get unhealthy we look, and it's just this huge cycle. And I think that that's the number one thing that I see is that women are just like, just over giving and not giving anything to themselves. I think the second thing that I see a lot is just like a lack of boundaries. And I guess those two kind of go hand in hand. You know, we don't have a lack of boundaries, that means you don't have confidence. You know, if we don't have confidence to say, no, I don't want to do that, or no, that's not okay for you to talk to me that way, or, you know, whatever, then, you know, we are going to overgive. We are going to kind of experience that burnout in a sense. And I think a lot of that comes with just a lot of these social pressures that women have in general. You know, how they should be, how they should be looking, you know, and it's just exhausting. It really is. And that's another thing I see a lot with my clients that we're dealing with is just this ingrained, you know, thing that makes us think like, I have to look this way, or I have to be this way. I have to fit this mold, you know, and so that's a lot of things that I do is just kind of break those down and just get rid of them because they just don't serve us. So yeah, I would say, you know, the giving and that lack of confidence and setting boundaries is like the two biggest things that I see. So
yeah, it's actually really cool to hear you talk about that because that's a lot of what I deal with my clients too. And we just kind of deal with it in a slightly different way of like how it's coming out as, you know, being a mother. And it manifests in so many different ways. Like it obviously is applicable to what you're doing too and how you eat and how you address food. Like there's so many of these things that are part of our personality or part of the society that we live in, just so many different outliers, you know, that we start to think like, why am I eating or why am I doing this? Why am I behaving this way? Well, when you start to pull back the layers, there's a lot of different things that go into our behavior. And that's where you and I can help clients do that. Like pick apart the different layers and why they're impacting the way you're behaving. And it's just, it's very, very cool thing to be able to help people understand and go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to circle back to, because you had talked about like emotional eaters, I am 100% an emotional eater, and something that I've been working on. And actually just, you know, connecting with you and kind of learning from you, it's actually been really helpful in me being more aware of that. I wanted to talk about that a little bit because, you know, with the kiddos around, like sometimes it's a little bit more stressful, especially since we're on top of each other. Like my husband and I the other day we're like, I just need a moment because, you know, we travel full time. So we're in a travel trailer. It's not very big. So when we're on top of each other and it's raining outside, it gets a little bit stressful. But like what is like the first thing we should be on the lookout to stop this habit? Because I think that a lot of women are emotional eaters, right? So like if you had one tip of like, how do we stop that? Or what's the first step like to being able to address it?
Good question. And I wish I had like a really simple answer, but I don't. So the reason being is that you just have to be proactive. Don't keep that stuff in the house, you know, like just don't keep it there. And I know that can be hard, especially if we have kids, like they expect like the cookies and the treats and stuff like that. But then that's where that lack of confidence in setting boundaries for your own kids comes to play. And you are their parent, you are not their friend. If you can't handle having this stuff in the house, then you set that boundary and be like, nope, sorry, but we can have grapes, we can have blueberries, we can have bananas. Like those are really sweet and those are healthy for us to have, you know. So it's really just kind of goes back to like, you know, are you establishing those boundaries? And if you know that it's going to be too much of a temptation because maybe you're just going through a difficult time right now, or this is just a struggle that you're really trying to be hyper focused on, then you need to just not keep those things in the house until you can get to a point where you have a healthy relationship with food and you can enjoy those things like the ice cream and things like that, you know, on a regular, like non-emotional basis. Then, you know, you just need to not keep it there. And that can be hard, especially if you have kids. So, or you have that wants to buy it all the time for you. That happens.
Yes, that happens with us sometimes. We've been in a learning experience with us. You know, I had shared we were trying to go vegan. We're trying. It's a work in progress. But we've been doing that with my daughter in the sense of like teaching her the healthy things, like let's have some fruit instead of ice cream. But of course, you know, with her, she's so young, like she's still not really understanding. And then there are times where I feel guilty, so I'm like, okay, I'll give her a piece of chocolate. But I love what you're saying about like not even having it in the first place, because it reduces the temptation. And it seems like so obvious, but at the same time, like something that I can do to make a difference. So definitely.
I think too why it's hard, especially as moms, is that we remember our own childhood and having these things, and like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like so like bringing back those memories, and I loved that. That was
yes.
And we want that for our kids. So we're just like, yeah, I'm gonna get the Oreos and I'm gonna get the ice cream because this was my favorite as a kid, and everything. And we're basically trying to live our childhood through them instead of creating their version of their childhood, letting our inner child to be free and be, you know, and that's another a lot of things that I'll do with my clients is just like letting that inner child just be free, like be silly, be weird, you know, don't have a care in the world. And then you notice a lot of those cravings go away because you're filling a void that's just hasn't been, you know, filled in years. So
yeah, that's really cool. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Well, so, you know, with everything right now, the mommies are feeling a lot of the craziness. What would you tell those moms who want to be healthy, but they feel like it's not really in the cards for them right now? And kind of hinted on a couple of different things we talked about, obviously with the grocery list and things like that, but like, do you have any advice for them who they're just really stressed out and they're not sure what to do? Like they want to focus on their health, but they're thinking like, oh, I just can't do that right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's just going back to my comment about them not giving that to themselves as much as they give to others. So if there's a mom out there that's completely stressed out, doesn't know what to do, completely like just anxiety and all of that stuff, chances are that they're giving so much of themselves to other people and not enough to them, to like themselves at the end of the day, that they're just like totally spent, you know. And if you think it's not in the cards for you, like you just don't have time for it, that's probably the problem, you know. And there really is no quick fix for that other than just like, you need to take the time. You need to dedicate the time. Like you are just as important, because if you think about it, if you are not at your best, you will not be the best mother. You will not be the best spouse. You will not be the best worker, you know, the best boss. None of it will be at your best, because you are so depleted. So you have to kind of change that mindset and like, I don't have time for this, to like, I gotta make time for this. This is important, and this thing over here has to wait. So
that's like the core of what I teach my clients, and the core of my belief is that if you do not take care of yourself, then you are actually doing a disservice to those around you, because you can be so much more when you actually take care of yourself and prioritize your self-care. Like it's not a maybe, like it's a critical, it's something you have to do in order to be healthy, happy, and just to give the most to the people around you.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's so, and that's something that I think a lot of moms especially need to be learning. Now is the perfect opportunity to do that. I think a lot of people are not seeing that, like I mentioned with their routines being completely like, you know, upset, like they're not seeing this as an opportunity to see this, like maybe the routine they had wasn't benefiting them and they can change it to something better than it was, instead of focusing on the fact that it's changed and that it's different, you know? So yeah,
I agree. I think right now is the best time to be learning the coping tools, because honestly, there's no better time than the present, right? And if you're so overwhelmed that you can't even see straight, something has to change. It's kind of like one of those things where I have clients that tell me like, well, I don't have enough time, or there's just too much going on. In all honesty, like this is the only thing you need to make time for, because if you're so spent, you're just wasting each day and each moment just trying to survive. Like, let's put the brakes on, let's pause, and let's change something.
Right, exactly. Like we have this one live, and you really want to live it that way. Like that does not seem like me. So, you know, just I had one of my clients when we first started with her, she's like, I want to be in a meadow just running freely, like, like not a care in the world. I'm like, girl, you can totally be that woman in the meadow. Like, go,
right?
go. Do it tomorrow. Just prance.
I love it.
So that's awesome. What I teach a lot of my clients how to do. And then when we can kind of focus on those things that are holding them back, then, all the nutrition and stuff, it's amazing how that just falls in place. I've had people tell me within days of starting the program that I have, that, I actually chose to eat vegetables, and I never eat vegetables, and I don't know why I'm eating them. And I was like, yeah, because you're starting to love yourself a little bit more. It's amazing, like, what these things actually can do for a person, especially a totally spent mom, like that is so key. So
yeah, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on time, so I wanted to give you a chance. So where can our viewers learn more about you, what you've got going on?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram. It's just my name, Nikki Colmone. And I also have a Facebook group that is where I post a lot of my info and everything. So that is the Warrior Women group that's overcoming emotional eating and anxiety and depression. So you can search for that on Facebook. I also have my book, which is called The Nature Mindfuck, that is available on Amazon. And I also have a website, which is just www.nikkicolmone.com, where you can just kind of learn a little bit more about me and what I do. So.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that we include the links to all of those in our post. So, Nikki, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I definitely learned a lot, and I am so glad to be able to share this with everybody.
Thank you for interviewing me. I love it. Thanks.
Of course. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye. I have to go pee really quick, but that was really good.
Can you hear my kids screaming?
Yeah, but I think it adds to the authenticity.
The whole time. Oh my God, this is so terrible. They're screaming in there.
No, I think it's so perfect. Is your husband home, or were they screaming and you're like, oh God, I need to go check on them?
No, I mean, I was kind of like, I know what's going on. So they just throw their stuff around and the painkillers and all that until they're ready to go. And then they do that where they're like, get me my stuff back. So my husband's not home, so I'm gonna have to go in there. But I was like, I'm not gonna do it right now. You can wait.
You can hear are they kicking on the wall or something? No,
they kick on the wall and they push their cribs together and then they throw things at each other.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. All right, you want to take a break and go check on them, make sure they're still in their cribs?
What?
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna nap very well today. Oh my God. Yeah.
Do you want to? Can you stop the recording? recording and restart it so that we have like two different
Yeah.
files? I don't know how that works.